Hey, I'm here at Rooted Action Park, and as you can see behind me, we are still in construction mode. Started this project about 6 months ago with just a bare piece of land. Now we have a building, we got some ramps, and we're getting close to having a finished facility. But we still have a long ways to go, a lot of work to be done. But the finish line is in sight, and that's really exciting. So I'm going to be really excited when we're done building and can actually just start investing in people, because that's really the whole idea behind Rooted Action Park, is to create a space that's family friendly and where we can create a community of people that support each other and just enjoy all the benefits of participating in action sports. And so yeah, that's the goal. That's the plan. Over the last couple of months, some of you, as I've shared my vision for this project with you, have gotten really excited about it and have asked me to put together a video where I can kind of tell the story of the history of Rooted Action Park and kind of the vision I have for it, so you can share this video with your friends. And so that's what this is. And this project, started 6 months ago, but really this dream started almost 30 years ago. And so that's the story I want to tell you. I'm going to try to keep the video short, but it is 3 decades worth of history. So, bear with me, because there's some really cool stories and I might get distracted, but I think it'll be helpful for you. I hope it'll be encouraging, and I hope it gets you really excited about what we have planned with Rooted Action Park. So yeah, let's just jump right in. In 1996, I was 20 years old, and I was 2 years out of high school and 4 years into running my own BMX bike shop. So as a junior in high school, I started a bike shop, and by 1996, I had customers all over the country, actually all over the world. We were mailing BMX parts and safety equipment and gear to people all over the world. We were doing mail order, and this is before the internet, so we actually printed catalogs, and then people would request those catalogs by calling us or sending us a letter, and then we would mail them a catalog. They would tear out the order form, they'd fill out the order form and mail it back with a check, and then we would ship them their stuff. So very different than how the whole online shopping thing happens today. But that's the way we did it back then. So anyway, we were doing a lot of mail order sales, and I was trying to kind of promote the whole BMX scene in southern Minnesota, where I was living and where I was based out of. So I started building ramps in my backyard, partially because I wanted to promote the scene, but mostly just because I wanted a place to ride, for me and my friends to ride. So we built ramps in the backyard, and crazy thing happened. People from all over Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska, Wisconsin, they were all coming to this small town in southern Minnesota and wanting to ride my ramps. And it was a super cool time, cool community building around that. And then I felt like God told me to take what was happening in my backyard and move it inside, like move it into an actual facility. And I don't know if you've ever been to Minnesota, you only get a couple months out of the year where you can actually ride bikes outside. Other than that, you're battling cold and snow and whatever. So I was excited about the prospect of having a place to ride year round, and excited about the idea of having a space where the community that was happening in my backyard could develop 12 months out of the year and could grow and grow. So I started sharing the idea with a bunch of people, and they got excited about it, and had somebody who's going to donate land, had people who were going to donate building materials and money, and all those donations were hinged on whether or not I could get all of the funding in place. And so I went to the bank that had helped me get my bike shop started, so I had a good relationship with them, and I approached them about getting a loan so we could secure all the funding. And the banker I talked to thought it was a good idea. He was excited about it, but when he took it to the committee or the board or whatever he had to do, they decided that a 20-year-old opening an action sports facility in southern Minnesota was not a risk they were willing to take, which, looking back, I totally understand that. But at the time, I was really frustrated and upset because the whole thing kind of just fell flat, and I had invested a bunch of time and energy into it. And I felt like God had told me to do something, and then it just kind of fell apart, and I just really didn't know what to do next. So then, but kind of a weird thing happened. As part of promoting the facility, we had built some portable ramps, and we were traveling around doing shows at town celebrations and county fairs and things, just to kind of get the word out and kind of promote what we were working on. And about the same time, X Games became a thing, and the Do Tour became a thing, and action sports really was just like in the front of people's attention. Like just the general public all of a sudden knew what skateboarding and BMX was. And, prior to that, like nobody had even heard of it. And so started to get phone calls from all over the place of people asking me to bring my ramps to their events and do BMX shows. And so that's what we started doing, is just traveling around. First started just in the Midwest, and then pretty soon the whole country. And then we ended up going into Canada, and even sent a team to Taiwan at some point. And so we started a bicycle stunt team called Chaos on Wheels. Some of you may have heard that, some of you may remember that. And spent about the next decade doing bicycle stunt shows, all over the country, and just traveling around. It was really fun time. It was amazing. There was hard things about it, but for the most part, it was just a really good experience. But in the back of my mind during that whole season was like, oh, what if we could just start a facility and have people come to us rather than us having to go to them? And early 2000s, Youth for Christ chapter in Southern Minnesota approached me, and I helped them develop an action sports ministry, and we built a ramp in a barn, and we're taking kids there, and that was really cool. And then we built a ramp at the campground they had there in Southern Minnesota, and I thought, okay, maybe this is what God, like back in '96, maybe this is what God was telling me to do. But it never really panned out, never really grew into kind of the vision that I thought God had given me for the whole like indoor facility thing. And so we just kept focusing on doing shows. And I met my wife at some point in the middle of that season, and she started touring with us. And then we had 2 kids, and then we were bringing them with us. And so by 2005, it was kind of like the peak of Chaos on Wheels touring. We had 2 teams on the road full time. I was personally on the road probably 280 days out of the year. And my wife and our 2 boys were traveling with us, along with a couple, 2 or 3 other BMX guys. And we were just on the road, living in a van, setting up ramps in parking lots, doing BMX tricks and telling people about Jesus, and then moving on to the next city and doing the same thing. And we got to be part of some really cool events. I got to do the presidential inauguration in 2005. We were part of a bunch of really cool music festivals and some tours with bands, and got to meet lots of great people, and got to be part of a lot of great outreaches at churches and parking lots, and got doing fairs and town celebrations. And it's a season of my life that I look back on, and it was really good time. It was fun. I got to experience a lot of things, and it was really good. But like I said, in the back of my mind was always this like, what if we can do this facility, and there's a couple different times I tried to rent a warehouse and build ramps, and none of it ever panned out. And then in the end of 2005, we had a friend. He was a Christian illusionist out of Nashville, and he was actually on his way home to Nashville from Montana. So he and his wife were doing events in Montana, and they're traveling through Iowa and going to Nashville to get home. And it just so happened that at the same time we were actually home. So, rarely were we ever actually home in Iowa, but that weekend we happened to be home. And so they stopped through, have a meal at our house, and just hang out. And he was sitting on my couch in my living room in northern Iowa, heading to Nashville. And a guy from Joplin, Missouri calls him. And the guy says, hey, I'm working on opening an indoor youth facility. Part of it's a ramp park. And some of my contacts here in Joplin said, you might know a guy that could run a skate park. And our friend was like, yeah, actually, I'm sitting on his couch right now. And so that facility that was getting ready to open in Joplin is what, if you're from Joplin, is what you know as the Bridge and Autumn Ramp Park. And so as they were getting ready to move into their new facility in 2006, they were looking for someone to run the skate park. And through that connection, we got connected with the Bridge, and over the next few months made the decision that I would move the home base of Chaos on Wheels and move our whole family and everything to Joplin, and I would help run Autumn Ramp Park. And so that's what we did. And still had BMX teams that were out touring. My brother ran a lot of that stuff, and had teams still doing shows while I was based out of Joplin and running the skate park. And part of this thing with Autumn was the big contest we did every year, which was JoMoPro. And so that whole thing was, it was a really good season with working at Autumn and with the Bridge and running the JoMoPro. Like, got to meet lots of people, got to tell lots of people about Jesus, and got to invest in the lives of a lot of local teens. And and so I was like, oh, this is finally the thing. Like, what was happening in Joplin with the bridge in autumn was very, very similar to the vision that God had given me in 1996. In fact, I found some of the blueprints that I had drawn up in 96, and they were very similar to the same type of things that the bridge and Autumn Ramp Park were offering. And I was like, oh, this is finally it, you know? And so I was really excited about that. Spent the next 6 years with the bridge in Autumn, and then in 2011, the tornado happened here in Joplin, damaged our house. Some of those kids that I've invested in a lot at Autumn passed away in the tornado. One of our kids, one of our daughters, was actually born the night before the tornado. And so that whole season was just really, really hard. The whole like last half of 2011 into early 2012 was really difficult for me and our family. And I was kind of getting burned out on the whole, everything that was happening at the bridge. Part of that, I had decided to shut down the JoMoPro, the big BMX contest we did, because some of the pros that were coming into town were introducing our local kids to things that were like totally opposed to what I was trying to do with those kids on a day-to-day basis. Like, I had one kid tell me he couldn't wait for JoMoPro to come around because that was when he got to hang out with pros and smoke weed and get drunk, and you know, guys were going to strip clubs, and so the whole thing was just like really hard, because it was like we spent most of our time during the year trying to introduce these kids to healthy life decisions and healthy lifestyles, and you know, ultimately wanted them to find Jesus and you know, become Christians. And the stuff that was happening in conjunction with the contest just was totally opposed to all of that. So I made the decision to shut down the contest, which made a lot of people mad. There were other things that were happening that kind of just, I don't know, it was just a hard time. And so toward the end of 2012, though, I heard God just tell me, he said, just quit the bridge. And I was like, okay, well, if you want me to quit, like, then what? Because that was my income. That's how I was taking care of my family. And he said, just wait, which wasn't particularly helpful, but yeah, that's what we did. So I quit, and we waited, and was basically unemployed for a couple months. But then the church where we were attending, they approached me and they offered me a full-time job there, working with their youth and doing some other things for the church. And so that's what I've been doing for the last, I guess, 12 years, 11 years, something like that, is working full-time at the church, and helping with leading small groups and discipleship stuff and youth stuff, and doing a lot of stuff. And really my connections in the BMX world kind of died off. Haven't really been part of that at all. And then about 2 years ago, some of those kids, and they're not kids anymore, but they were kids at Autumn and the Bridge, and now they're young adults and got their own families and they're married. And some of those guys started reaching out to me. And one of the conversations that always came up every time we got together with those guys was, when are you going to open another skate park? And my answer was always, never. I'm never doing that again. Like, God told me to do that back in 1996. That was 30 years ago. You know, got to live that world at Autumn with the Bridge, and now I'm ready to move on to a different chapter of my life. And so had no intention of pursuing anything like Rooted Action Park, and was really trying to avoid it completely, honestly. And then over the last 2 years, like, God just kept putting more and more people in my path, and more things just kept changing. Like, people would say things, and it got to the point again where I felt like God was telling me to pursue this. And so that's what my wife and I decided to do. Jen and I, we talked about it, and we've been praying about it, and really felt like toward the end of 2023 there that God told us to open a facility where it's family friendly, where people can come in and feel like they're coming home. We want to create a space that's very hospitable, and but centered around action sports, because that's what I know. That's the world that I grew up in, and that's just what I know. And I know that there's benefit in the action sports. Kids participating in action sports, it's good for them on so many levels. And the epidemic that's happening with teens right now, with anxiety and depression and screen time and all the craziness of the world that we live in right now, which is totally different than anything I ever grew up in. But just technology and the anxiety that's creating in kids, like the activity of actually going out and riding a bike or a skateboard or a scooter on a ramp and taking risks and actually accomplishing something and seeing like your hard work pay off, like all of that stuff is so beneficial to the health of teens. And then creating a space where families, where moms and dads can come and skate or ride bikes alongside their kids and build memories. And and working in youth ministry, I saw so many times where kids, when they become teenagers, they kind of fire their parents, and unless parents have really invested in relationships with their kids, they don't have a whole lot of input during the teen years, and it's really sad to see. So I want to create a space where parents can really invest in the relational capital in their kids, so when they become teenagers, they still have that relationship where parents can still parent, and where teens are willing to be open and honest with their parents. And I just want to see strong families really develop. And I want to see people choose healthy lifestyles. And at the end of the day, ultimately, I want to see people come to know Jesus as their Savior. And that's really the ultimate answer. And creating a space like this where someone who would never go to church would feel comfortable walking in because they want to skate or they want to ride their bike or they want to climb the rock wall. And then as they're here, getting to develop relationships with them and friendships with them, and at some point hopefully having a conversation about what does it mean to follow Jesus, and if nothing else, just having the opportunity to love people and support them and be a community for them. I think that's something that our society really is missing right now, is like people feel alone, and they feel isolated, and they feel like everyone's against them, and just the depression and the anxiety, like I said, it's just raging. People need to find a place where they can go and be accepted and loved, and where there's no agenda, but just because people care. And that's the whole heart behind Rooted. As Jen and I were talking about it, like the word that kept coming to mind as we decided to do this was hospitality. Like we want Rooted to be a place where people come and just feel loved and feel like they're part of a family. And so that's why we decided to do it, what we're doing. This facility is being built right next door to our house. We mortgaged our house so we could pay for this. And so we're to the point right now where the facility is almost completed, but we need help. We need the community to step in and to get behind this and to support this. And we need to find funding so we can finish the project. And so that's really, like, that's the story. It's something that God put on my heart almost 30 years ago. And over a crazy string of events over the last 30 years, like, I think God has really prepared me. I think back, if God would have allowed me to open that facility in 1996 when I was 20 years old, how big of a failure it would have been, because at 20 years old, I was so immature, had no idea how to run a business. I was a Christian. My dad was a pastor, so I grew up in the church, but I had no idea how to disciple people. And so these years working on the road and touring and meeting all kinds of action sports people in the Chaos on Wheels years helped prep me for this. The years at Autumn Ramp Park and the bridge taught me things and helped prep me for this. And the years spent at the church has really equipped me and helped me kind of clarify, oh, here's what God really wants. Here's his heart. And so this picture he gave me in 1996, I think, is more clear today than it's ever been. And it's becoming a reality. And I'm sitting here, and it's proof that it's becoming a reality, because there's a roof over my head and there's ramps behind me, and we're making this thing work. But if you'd like to support what we're doing, or hear more about it, send me an email. You can contact us through the website. Our website's rootedactionpark.org. We do have 501c3 set up, so any donations made to the Rooted Action Sports Foundation are tax deductible. So we'd love for you to consider making a tax deductible contribution financially to help support this project. We're about $165,000 short of being able to totally finish this the way that we would want it to be. And then we have massive debt that we accumulated to make this thing happen, which we're trusting that God's going to provide, and he's going to make things happen. And it was his idea, so we're trusting that he's going to fill in all the gaps. But would love for you to get behind us and support us either financially or just tell people what we're doing. The more people that hear about this, the better. The goal is to be able to start offering sessions and being open to the public and with a fully functional facility here before it gets cold this fall. So we are offering sessions currently right now, which is exciting. And insurance finally came through on that, so we were able to open these ramps up to people. And so you can go to our website and learn about how to become a member, how to take part in some of those sessions that are happening currently. You can find out how to donate. There's all kinds of update videos on our website that talk about the whole process of how we got here. So if you want to see the building process as it's been going on, I try to create update videos at major milestones. And so, but yeah, that's basically what we got going on. Thank you for sticking with this whole video and watching it all the way through the end. I hope it was encouraging to you. I hope you're getting excited about the prospect of how beneficial a facility like this can be for our community, especially for the teens. But I want to see families strengthened. I want to see little kids to be able to come out and enjoy action sports alongside their mom or their dad. And I want to see adults be able to come out and find community and find supportive friendships. One of the testimonies that I hear from the guys who grew up in the autumn, those friendships that they developed on those ramps are still going strong today. Even though some of them don't even ride bikes or skateboard anymore, like those friendships are still there. And that's what I want more than anything, is to create lifelong friendships. And whether it's around action sports or not, doesn't really matter to me. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you're excited about this, because I am, and I'll keep you updated as things progress. So thanks.